Hey guys, Stephen Cox here, and welcome to part 2 of my mini bass ukulele course, where we're talking about how to hold a bass ukulele today. If you like videos like these, please subscribe for more, and become a patron if you'd like a PDF version of this course. So first we'll be talking about how to hold the bass ukulele with a strap, and later on we'll talk about without a strap. So, with the strap, what you want to do is basically sit with your back straight, and have your arms kind of by your side at first if you have the strap, and then notice the way that I have the bass ukulele just sitting here. So it's not flat like this, it's not parallel to the floor, it's more like at a 45-degree angle. It's not all the way up like this, but kind of in between the two. Okay, and it kind of just sits there. So also notice my strap height. Basically I have it to where the bottom of the ukulele is lightly touching my leg, so that if I stand up or sit down, the bass ukulele is at the same height. Okay, so once we have that, it's time to talk about what we do with our arms. So first, have your arms at your side loosely, and then just kind of lift them up by the elbow. So let's start with the left arm, or for me it's the left arm, the fretting hand. Basically, if you look down at your arm, your wrist is probably fairly straight or just slightly bent in. It's not bent out usually. So let me show you what I mean. It's not bent out like that. It's kind of bent in a little bit, or it's fairly straight. So when we move it up, we want to make sure our hand stays relaxed and that we're kind of in that position. And we just put our hand on the strings. And then let's talk about the thumb on the back. The thumb can be vertical like this, but it's kind of a nicer angle if you just have it just slightly pointed out. Because if it's vertical here, it'd be behind your middle finger, but it can be kind of in between your middle finger and your pointer finger where it's just kind of at an angle, if that's more comfortable for you. And I'm just going to say this, when we start playing, you don't really want to squeeze the notes. You're not pinching the notes like that. It's more like you're pulling the neck towards you. And if you have to squeeze a little bit, that's okay. Just don't squeeze very hard. So now let's talk about our right hand, or our plucking hand. So first, just go ahead and bring it over. What I'm doing, a lot of times you'll see people rest their arm entirely on the bass, and then their hand will bend over like this at a very, very extreme angle. I'm not a fan of that because you have tendons under here pulling your fingers. So what I do instead is I keep my arm a little bit straighter. I bring it out just a tiny bit more than that. So it still rests here. It's just resting lightly. My shoulder's doing some of the work and it's resting lightly on the bass, not very hard. And then that way my wrist is either straight or slightly bent in this way. And then my hand can kind of stay relaxed so that I can pluck with my pointer and middle finger. Now, when you do play, some people like to anchor their thumb, so some people will get a thumb rest, and other people try to anchor it in all sorts of different spots. I recommend not anchoring it up here, and so what I usually do is I actually let it float while I'm playing the E string, and then when I'm playing any of the other strings, the A string, the D string, or the G string, I'll let my thumb sit on the E string. It's the thickest string, if you don't remember, and then that way I could just pluck with my pointer and middle finger on the other strings. And we'll talk more about that in future lessons. So what if you don't have a strap? If your bass ukulele doesn't have a strap, there's some minor adjustments to the technique that we need to make. First of all, the bass doesn't stay up on its own, right? If you were to let it go, it just falls. So we can't just let it sit there like we would with a strap. So that's a big benefit to the strap. But what we can do is we can use just a little bit more pressure on our arm, not a bunch like I was saying, but just a tiny bit more on our right arm to hold the body just slightly so that the neck comes up at a little bit of an angle. And then we can kind of share that weight with the left hand as well, slightly holding up when you're not shifting. It's probably better to hold it a little bit more with the right arm or the plucking hand arm so that your left hand doesn't let it go when you're changing notes and let the bass drop. So the other thing you might notice is this is sitting a little bit lower than I had my other bass ukulele. So what I like to do is I cross my right leg over my left leg just to bring it up a little bit towards me. And then after that, I kind of still do the same thing where I rest my arm here to bring it up at an angle. It's not always at a 45-degree angle. It's kind of close to it still. So then everything else is basically the same. So you may want to practice just holding it with your arm lightly enough to where you're not pushing down, but where it's staying put. So just figuring out that exact amount of pressure and giving it no more than that. And then do the same thing that we did for with the strap, where you just kind of bring your left arm up. Your thumb is kind of sticking up, but maybe slightly outward and not kind of straight up, but sort of where it's behind your pointer finger and middle fingers, somewhere in between there. And your fingers are slightly curved. And then on the other hand, it's the same thing that we said before, where you can anchor your thumb on the E string while you're playing the other strings, or you can let it float while you're playing the E string, or you can anchor it somewhere if you want to get one of those thumb rests, or if you want to anchor it on the fretboard or fingerboard right here and then play there. You could also do that as well, but you'll get a different tone if you're playing over the fretboard or over the sound hole or close to the bridge. So that's just something to be aware of while you're figuring out how you want to hold this instrument. So everybody's a little bit different, and some of these rules don't work perfectly for everybody. So make adjustments to how to hold the instrument, but try to get these general ideas of keeping your arms relaxed, not bending your wrists too much, and not putting so much pressure on any arm, and not squeezing too hard. So those are the main things to keep in mind. And there's a more in-depth video up here that you can check out as well. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying this course, please subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a patron, where you can download the PDF version of the course as well.